G'day, I'm Pete, the Aussie Bush Cop. In 2012, I retired from the New South Wales Police for mental health reasons, and I took the radical decision to move to King Island, where I become a homesteader. Yeah.
Hey Peter, how are you doing, buddy? Glad to see you again.
Oh, it's fantastic to see you again, Mike. It's been a great experience and thinking about this, and we've come up with some things to talk about. So I'm really keen to do it. One of
Yeah,
the,
I am too, man. I'm hoping that people don't think we're too boring. I don't
Boring.
know. I don't know about the hate mail.
I just so one of the things that's come to my attention is about how when I became ill with a psychological injury called post-traumatic stress injury, is that with the psychiatrist that I was consulting, he said, and the penny never dropped in my mind until he said that. He said, Peter, if you're in the military, your enemy is wearing a particular uniform and they might look a particular way. He said, in the police, you're called upon to shoot your own. I thought, wow, that's something that had never occurred to me before. I'm called upon to shoot people that look just like me. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I never really gave it a whole lot of thought, about psychologically. I just knew when every day that I saddled up, so to speak, and went to work, I knew I was coming home,
Mm,
and I was prepared psychologically if I had to, um, take decisive actions that, might result in a lifelong issues. I was prepared to do that because I had two daughters and
mm,
and a wife and bills to pay, and they depended on me.
yeah. Mm.
What do you think?
Oh, look, absolutely, mate. I'm by nature, I can tell you I'm a peace-loving sort of a bloke. I don't think I have a violent bone in my body, but I know, and I've been past this point in my career. If someone's going to, at law in New South Wales, it was serious injury. If I feared serious injury, I could draw Mr. Glock and I could point it at someone and, if necessary, shoot them. So I knew that even though my what my nature is like, if someone's going to hurt me, I will kill them. And that's a pretty
Yeah.
dark awareness to have about myself. And so I never knew that before. And for most people, even like especially in Australia, most police have never been in that situation. They don't actually know that. It's an academic question. But for me,
Yeah.
even though I resolved it peacefully, I know that I've been through that point psychologically, and I know that I will kill if I have to. And
Yeah.
that's an interesting thing to know about yourself.
Well, it is. Peter, my thoughts on that is, as police officers, we deal with. Did you do like car accidents too? You have to work
Everything,
those as well.
everything.
So you've seen, the carnage that
Mm,
those cause,
mm,
and you have to, especially if it's infants or if it's a 2-year-old, the toll it takes on you mentally, right?
mm.
But during the time that you're doing that, you're totally professional and you're totally
Yeah, yeah.
involved. But afterwards, people don't realize that there's ghosts in our background that will stay with us forever,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So I look at it this way: if I would have had to, once you take up that slack on that trigger, it's kind of what's going to happen. I knew I could do it,
mm,
but I would separate mentally. I would separate myself from the actual act. I would probably deal with it in the shower, as we discussed offline here.
mm,
When you're alone and if you have a conversation with somebody, you tend to replay that conversation back in your mind when you're in the shower.
mm,
I know that you and I, any other police officer, that would stay with us for the rest of our life.
mm.
And we would come up with some kind of mental way of explaining it to ourselves. But you know, thank God. I'm like you. There's been times, unfortunately, that, brother, one more step, man. Don't do this. You're talking to them.
Mm.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
make me do this. Don't make me do this.
mm,
And you're really thinking about yourself more than you're thinking about that person,
mm.
you know?
No,
So,
yeah, because everyone has a mother and a father and maybe kids, and you can't. I think one of the great dangers, we were talking offline about younger police, and the thing that you cannot lose sight of is that everyone is a human being. Everyone is created in the image of God. Everyone has that about them, and no matter how justified killing someone might be, you're actually killing a human being, and
yeah,
that's a profound thing. You can never lose sight of that.
yeah, yeah.
And,
No, I totally agree with you on that, Peter. Yeah.
I think one of the problems of say movies, of I've mentioned Clint Eastwood many, many times in my career. I was at a job once and there was a brown snake, very, very dangerous, very, very aggressive snake. And this bloke come out of a garbage bin and he wanted me to shoot the snake. And I thought, mate, I'm not Clint
Your
Eastwood.
target's that big
Like at a distance of
and
maybe,
it's moving.
and it's moving. Shoot it. I mean, movies have got a lot to be forgiven for. You know, they just think you.
Yeah.
Many, many times I said to people, I'll point to something over in the distance. Maybe I'll use the imperial system. Maybe say 30 feet away. I said, see that thing over there, 30 feet away. You've got a Glock. You wouldn't be able to hit it. And they go, oh, really? No, you wouldn't be able to hit it. Forget about it. Not Clint Eastwood. Or
Yeah.
John Wayne.
Yeah. No, you get that a lot, and that's why I was giggling at when I watched your when I reacted to your videos about. I had just got done saying people would say, "Why didn't you shoot him in the leg?" And I think my reply was, "You're being lucky to hit him anywhere,
Yeah.
but you're trained to hit him in the center mass,
Yeah.
But the adrenaline and the movement, and you got to as police officers here in America, we got to worry about where that bullet goes after that person.
Absolutely. Precisely, Mike. Yeah, I
Yeah,
amen to that, brother, because the bloke that I was going to shoot, the one time I lost rapport with him, because I said to him, because he was in front of his house, and I said to him, who else is in the house? At that moment, I lost rapport with him. I got it back. But you have to think the bullet
yeah,
doesn't integrate, does it? If you miss, it's going to go somewhere.
yeah.
Mm,
And you're gonna have to live with that,
yeah. Mm,
Uh,
yeah.
you know, I,
I've done a lot of hunting, and I'm very, very aware that if you're out hunting, if you don't shoot at anything you can't positively identify.
yeah.
Mm,
No, that's exactly right. Well, let's say you're, like for instance, one of the things I had alluded to with you was a bank robbery that we used to have several,
mm,
and I told you it's the only war in town. So I mean, it starts raining police there, and they're all in the perimeter,
yeah,
and you got one guy or two guys, let's say, that are the bad guys in the middle.
mm,
You got to worry about those guys, and you're hollering, "Hey, crossfire, crossfire!" The
mm,
movies don't ever show that. They show them shooting, you know, shooting and let God sort it out. That's what they're doing. But you have, like we were talking about, psychologically, you're going to have to live with your actions for the rest of your life. They could be righteous actions,
mm,
and they could be justifiable actions as they should be.
mm,
Regardless, mentally, you will have to come to terms with that one way or the other. And some people, you were talking about you. Some people, mentally are scarred by this simple, fun job that we did for, so many years.
mm,
But you know, some of these babies that we saw on the side of the road, they still come to us. We're not, we'll never be free of those visuals
mm,
ever again. And we'll laugh and we'll joke around, but when you're by yourself,
mm, mm.
you know,
One has those reflective moments.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you're really not fully human if you don't.
Or yeah, I mean, golly, can you imagine being so psychotic
Hmm.
that you're like, yeah, well, it was God's way, I've never thought that way. It's a baby. I've said this before on my channel, but I have an 18-month-old granddaughter. I have a 21-year-old granddaughter and an 18-month-old, and my wife and I watch the 18-month-old 5 days a week because my daughter works in Dallas.
Mm,
And so we watch her. And I wonder, some of the calls I've been on is, people hurting 18 months old,
mm,
and uh
mm,
and you can't help being a human and comparing. How can you compare your 18-month-old to this call that you went on 10 years ago,
mm,
and wonder, how can somebody
mm,
hurt this child? So we have to live with that. I mean, we'll put them in jail, and hopefully, the jury system and the judicial system will put them away for a long time.
mm.
And it's usually out of our hands, as cops. We once we cuff them and take them, then they go through the system. There's a lot of times we don't even know what the outcome was.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
Like people say to me, oh, when I tell stories on my channel, oh, what happened after that, Pete? I go, I don't remember. There's
Yeah.
that many of
Yeah.
them, I just don't remember. It's just a long time ago, and I don't remember. But one of the things that when I have three children, I have grandchildren too, and I remember one night where I was out camping with my wife, and we went out when my son, when we had the first child, when my son, and I woke up during the night and I saw my son laying there in the tent, and for a moment I thought he'd passed on. But that's
Oh my
I've
God.
been, like I've been to cot death or SIDS death, they call it here. I know it can happen, and babies just stop breathing. I don't know why, but it's horrible. And I know,
Or I just can't imagine.
I imagine for some, I know that some people find me probably the way I go about doing things rather infuriating. Like I'm very, very careful with what I do because I know a cataclysm is just around the corner. Not even around the corner, it's in the next half second. So I'm very careful with the way I live my life because I know that disaster can happen instantly. And I see people doing things, and I think, well, I wouldn't do it that way. I'd be a bit more careful. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
probably good aspects about the knowledge that we have about life. Keeps us safe.
Yeah, you're probably exactly right, Peter. I went on a call as the only officer to a SIDS
Mm.
call, and man, you never hear wailing from a woman
Mm.
or a man that wake up and their baby has passed on,
Mm. Mm.
and it and again, you and I in our professional job, we're not expected to tear up, and I mean, but there's times you go back to your car after a call like that, and your whole face is just wet,
Mm.
because
Mm.
you're thinking about all the things that this baby is now going to miss out on.
Mm.
People don't realize that's the hard part of our job. It's a fun job. We discussed this offline. It's the best circus in town,
Mm.
but it's things like this that scar you,
Mm.
and you're having to deal with some issue. I don't know what those are, and I'm not prying, but um, you know, I'll pray for you for sure,
Thanks, brother.
for some kind of solitude, for that. But
Oh,
but I've been there.
that's why I live where I live. I mean, I've never lived anywhere where I didn't have neighbours over a paling fence. I mean, I took up the life of being a homesteader. I mean, every morning, in fact, this morning I go out into the paddock and I call up my cow, beautiful old Jersey cow, and I milk her, and I have ducks and chickens, and have Highland cattle that we breed. And I didn't know anything about this, Mike. I just reinvented myself as a homesteader. And we have a beautiful property here on King Island. And that's the reason I do it. Doesn't matter how I'm feeling in the morning, and generally I always feel pretty good, but I got to go out and milk the cow. I love that, you know. So it's just a good.
I'm envious, man.
Well,
I'm envious.
if you get down here, I'll show you how to milk a cow. You might know already, but it's a fantastic thing to do. I just love it. I have some of my best thoughts when I'm milking the cow, and we talk. Oh, well, I shouldn't say we talk to each
Talk
other.
to the cow.
I talk to her. It's fantastic. But it's just, well, I think it's not something that I'm not ashamed of it, but I think it's a badge of honor, I think, to care for people so much that we're prepared to to risk ourselves. And I think it's, I'm a Christian, and I think it's an example I have from the Lord Jesus, that He so loved me that he was prepared to offer everything for my peace. And so, in a sense, oh, well, not in a sense. I know being a policeman is a very godly thing to do,
Yeah.
and so I love.
Blessed are the peacekeepers. It's in the Bible.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I
just
just love
don't. I do too. I just, if there's any young police officers, tuning in and watching this in the future, I would just, you know, you know, pray to them, please, um, show compassion.
that. Mm.
Not everybody's your enemy.
No, no,
You
no.
know,
Mm,
it's just, I tell this, Peter, to young officers when I was training young officers and any officer that I hired, that when you pull a guy over for speeding and, let's say he's doing 10 or 15, I don't know what y'all, we call it miles per hour, but I know y'all do kilometers,
yeah.
but a significant, let's say 10% over the speed limit.
Mm,
Maybe that's the easiest way to do it.
mm,
Uh, you couldn't give him a ticket, right?
mm.
But you got to think about this guy just drove 30 miles through traffic, stop and go traffic.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's late. His kid's playing soccer or softball. He's got to get to that game. The boss has been on his ass all day for him. Maybe he's behind or whatever. He's got so many things going on in his mind
Mm,
that the
mm,
last thing is how fast he was going. He just knows he's got to get something done. And now
mm,
here, the last thing on his plate is this cocky, young police officer coming over
mm,
and, lecturing him on he shouldn't be speeding through
mm.
town. And I'm going to write you a ticket. Now you're going to take money from him and from his family. When you could show the compassion
Absolutely.
and yeah, just tell, hey man, do me a favor. This is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to write you a ticket on it, but you got to promise me when you're in my county or you're through my jurisdiction here,
Mm,
you'll at least do close to the speed limit.
mm,
I'm not even asking for the speed limit. Just want compliance. I don't want your money.
mm,
And that guy will also remember that because
mm,
really, as police officers, all we're doing is
mm,
seeking compliance.
mm.
We're not, that's the only thing we're out there for.
The only time
And
I used to write infringement notices, I've never written a speeding ticket, wouldn't know how. But the only time I used to write infringement notices was if he pulled over a drug dealer and I thought, well, he's got a bit of a bold tyre there or his blinker lens is a bit faded. And I give him an infringement notice because in my mind, I think he's got to pay his tax somehow or other. And this is
I
a
got you.
paying tax.
So what does an infringement take? Is it like a fix it ticket where he's got to get the tire fixed and then go prove it to the court
That's
or
that's called a defect notice in New South Wales. A defect notice if you had, say, a bald tyre, you get a
Mhm.
defect notice. But there's also an infringement. You might call it a ticket. Oh, we call it
Okay.
too. Yeah, and so you're supposed to do both. So,
So
but
regardless, if he got an infringement ticket, if I'm understanding this, and he got the ball, well, let's say the ball tire, and he got the ball tire, a new tire, the ticket still stands. He still
oh
got
yeah,
to take care of that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, but a defect, like for us, is a fix it ticket.
Mm,
If he got the ball tire fixed and he goes and
ah,
he shows the magistrate, hey,
mm,
I got this defect ticket,
mm,
um,
mm,
and I got the ball tire, then they would dismiss the ticket
mm,
in certain amount of days. If not, then he
mm. No,
did you is that what y'all had to?
no, the ticket stood. You could. It doesn't matter. It was for a bald tyre. You could always take it before a magistrate. You could have it heard. They call it being heard, and plead not
Hmm.
guilty to it, or you could plead guilty with an excuse. But I never used to do that. If they had a really bad attitude, if they wanted to argue with me, that was the end of it. Then you got a ticket.
We
But
call that POP up here,
uh,
pissed off police.
that's it. We called it failed the attitude test.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not proud of it, but yeah, I used to tell people, you can talk yourself into a ticket. I'm just going to tell you, you need to get that fixed, but
Yeah,
you keep on. I'm
yeah,
just going to write you a ticket for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I won't. It's we have in New South Wales we have a branch of the police called the Highway Patrol. And whenever I would go somewhere, say I went to a party and there's people there that don't know me and they say, oh, what do you do for a job? And I would say, I'm a policeman. But very, very quickly, I'd say, but I'm not a highway patrolman because no one likes them.
Yeah, the highway patrol, man. even in Texas, you know, the highway patrol, um, we make fun that all they do, they don't answer calls. You know, they don't go to
They're the
a,
same
a
with the
domestic.
same over here, Mike.
Yeah. So they just do highway stuff,
Yeah.
and you know they'll back us up. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to disparage them, but you know
No.
if we go to a domestic disturbance and we're the only officer, one of those guys will try to
Yeah.
back us up. But they don't get calls like we do. We might go from call to call to
Yeah,
call.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know?
Oh, mate, it's the same. We went to, I remember going to a job and there was that many police cars there. You could smell the brake drums burning. You know, that smell in there, the brake drums burning. Going around corners and braking, accelerating. And
Yeah.
one time we got to this job, I think it was a brawl. And we got there, and one of the other police, one of the highway patrol unit showed up. And one of the other police went up and he said, "Mate, what are you doing here? You can't hand out a ticket for this."
Do they have a jurisdiction? They don't even have
No, no,
jurisdiction,
no.
do Yeah.
Highway patrolman has the same arrest power from Sydney right through it. I'm going to call it Broken Hill, like 10 hours west. Now, same jurisdiction, but
Yeah, and our highway patrol does too.
ah,
But they, you know, they don't jump calls, what we call jumping calls. You know, like if let's say they call, hey, 122 got a domestic disturbance at 123 Main Street,
mm,
and they're closer because normally the way we respond on the radio is like, okay, I'll be en route from, you know, and I'll give a cross street, and that gives the dispatcher and everybody else listening about a good idea about
yeah,
how long it's going to take me to get there. So maybe there is some, if it's a domestic disturbance, somebody will jump it
mm,
because they're going to be closer.
mm,
But the highway patrol don't. They'll do that if it's an emergency kind of a deal. But
mm,
um,
yeah,
if it's they work all the accidents predominantly, but we work accidents because there might be only 3 highway patrol guys
mm,
out working, and they might already be working accidents. So
mm.
we'll do that. But for predominantly, they don't answer. They don't get calls from dispatch saying, "Hey, there's a barking dog over." We do, we do.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I remember being with the highway patrol officer one night, and there was a violent domestic called over the radio, and I was riding shotgun with him. What we call it, riding shotgun, because he needed a partner for the night.
Uh-huh.
So I was just the passenger, and anyway, and he said to me, said, "How long do you think it'll take the general duties truck to get there?" And then because the King law, whoever's the first one there, that's their job. You,
Yeah.
you can't shrug the job after you get there. Anyway, that's what happened. But
Y-
anyway, they're experts at what they do, and I'm glad they're there. And
Yeah.
there's nothing they don't know about traffic. And fortunately, I'm not fortunate, but I had little interest in traffic matter. I was far more interested in criminal matters. But
Yeah.
when I went to my one maners, I was everything. At the one
Yeah.
man,
You got to do it all.
I was
Yeah.
everything. I was the detective. I was this. I was that. So that was great. I loved it. When I went to, someone said, "Oh, as you might know, people very rarely ask what rank you are or you were." I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I was a senior constable." But when I went to my next station, I was the officer in charge. Oh, really? He said, "I was the only one there, but I was the officer in charge."
You're the highest and the lowest
Oh,
guy there.
I was the highest and the lowest. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah, so that was cool.
Hey, Pete, thanks for having me on this show and inviting me. It was great for me, and I hope it was great for you. And let's get together and do this again sometime.
That'd be fantastic, Mike. I really appreciate your time and being able to sit here and listen to your stories, and I'd love to do it again too.